Okay, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, it's
Okay.
not like the 50-50.
No.
Golden age.
No,
Okay. There, you can't make it.
Can't legally make money. We can make money.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And moved by Donna Clark, second by Councillor Corbett, that this meeting be open at 7 o'clock. Next, we have the adoption of agenda. Moved by Councillor Corbett, second by Councillor McGuinness, that the agenda presented to council and dated the 19th day of November 2024 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Here and none. Next, we have presentations and delegations from the Steel Rail Committee.
adopt the minutes first.
Hmm?
Adopt the minutes.
Okay. Next, we have moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Donna Clark, that the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 22nd, 2004, and special meeting of council of November 2nd, 2024 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the presentations and delegation. Steel Rails Committee, Karen and Elmer.
Hello,
Hello.
hello, everyone. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here this evening. The Steel Rail Committee, it's comprised of myself, Karen Vonley, and Steve Bilcott is our president, and Elmer Rose is our vice president, and Lise Houle is our secretary. Lise regrettably couldn't be here this evening, work related. So, again, my name is Karen Gagne, and we had been here a while back, and at that time, we were working on becoming incorporated. Well, we are now incorporated. And also, we've established a bank account. We have no money in the bank account. But we have established a bank account.
One step at a time.
Because we had to, and so this is as far as we have been. We are a group of volunteers, and I certainly appreciate the expertise of all of the members of this particular committee, spending countless hours just working on this particular plan that we have. So we have become nonprofit. We have established a bank account, and our next step is to acquire land to build a museum, or what we like to call a land bank, to be able to, there are a lot of different ideas for this museum, and we would like to we're thinking even of including technology in this museum, along with the artifacts that are coming in steady. So I have presented you all with the process before, and also a map of the zone that we are looking at putting our museum on. It's Block C, Zone 3. It's a piece of land that's in Rutherglen, and it's adjacent to the tracks. It's unused land. It has to be cleared, but it's central, and again, because it's adjacent to the tracks, OVR will work with us, and Elmer has other contacts that will work with us because of the adjacency to the tracks. So what we are asking for tonight from council is to purchase that particular piece of land at a nominal fee from the township. Now, the nominal fee will be $1. I have done a lot of research on other museums throughout Canada and into the United States. A lot of the acquisitions for museums and such like that are acquired that way through their townships. So that's what we are asking. We are excited to get this underway. We're not delusional. We know it's going to be a lot of work, and we're not asking for any money at all. We're just asking for a piece of land. It isn't a huge piece of land to build this museum on that will just be so instrumental in the economic part of this particular township, and will bring in people from all over. We plan on teaming up with the 503 in North Bay, and they're planning on bringing their engines down and working with us when it's a completely separate entity, but this is the plan for the future. Until then, we would have to clear the land, we'd have to build the land, and we plan on doing it all with money that we will acquire, hopefully through certain grants and fundraising. We'll be doing some considerable fundraising, and now that we're nonprofit, we can. So we have a very rich area history here. And again, the economic spin-offs, I think, will be immeasurable. I can't really tell because it's a new project, but just going with the research that I've done throughout Canada and down into the United States, especially Michigan, they now bring a train down to this little community that's not any more than a couple of hundred people. And they open it up for a Christmas bazaar and a Christmas week. And that is something that can be done there, here. We can include it all, along with the Wall of Fame and along with the First Spike. So we can work with council as to where all of these particular things will be situated. So that's something to look forward. But for now, this is our request. I will now pass it on to our president, Stephen Hill, whose wife is an author, and my book club just read her book, and it's awesome. It's just awesome. We said there should be a movie, and she's right in the area. Anyway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm a little off the track. Stephen Hill.
Thank you very much for having us here. I'm going to be very brief because I'd like to have a back and forth question if you have any. But this museum, why up on Rutherglen on the highway? Well, we made application. The Ontario Heritage Trust wasn't receiving applications for their plaques. They're behind, but I suspect Vic Fideli might have heard and made some requests because they about 2 weeks before the year's acceptance of applications, about 2 weeks before that, we got this notice to get your application in, which we got in time. And part of the deal for that was to, well, you know, what's the benefit to Ontario? Would there be their premise? And we sold it in the sense that we're building the community here. Rutherglen is on the highway, town of Bonfield's down here. And how do you move people? It's the history of the area is such that the railroad and the highway are pretty far apart at this point. So how do you get people down here into the township? So we said, well, can we get a plaque on the highway? Right by the museum. People come into the museum. There's a audio tour set up with storyboards. You just punch your phone and it picks up this audio with Elmer and his professional capacity as a voice and a historian can set up this whole thing. And so we get people down off the highway. I have a little bit to add to that, is that, I've, in my retirement, done a lot of traveling in the States, and you come across these little proud communities that have a museum, have, social involvement in the community. There's a certain pride there, and you can feel it when you're in them. And I'd like to see something like that here, where you can generate a feeling where people might, you've got potential housing investments or housing developments, and it might be a place to live, to work, just to commute to North Bay. But if you have a train coming, if you have people taking advantage of maybe a little more traffic downtown here, but that's why the museum's in Rutland. That's the reason for that, is to get somebody interested. And I might add, having traveled Trans-Canada, I think we should have a billboard with cleanest washrooms. Anyways, I'll let Balmer have his say, and hope we can have some conversation.
I brought the facts. I'm gonna kind of turn things around here. I think history and preserving our heritage is so important. It's what built our country in the past 100 to 150 years, and if we throw it out the back door, we don't really have anything here to continue on. That's the way I feel. And in the yellow package there, those files are from a school over on Development Road, dated 1896. My grandfather was 6 years old. His records are there, his books, the teachers. Everything's right there, even right down to the wood stove, which I think they paid something like 25 cents for a cord of wood that time to fire the stove up. And you pass by there now, there's just a house and a bush, and they're saying, there never was a school there, but there was a school there. And kids for miles around walked that. And it was known as the Roseville School because it was pretty close to the Rose settlement where we came from. And I believe there is something like 35, 40 kids with their names, their ages, their report cards, everything's all there in files. I do not want to see these files lost. I do have a chance of giving them to the Nipissing University. They've requested all my files. I don't want to see my files leave Bonfil. I would like to see them here, put into a museum or an archive. And that is not the oldest. That's 1896. I have a lot of other stuff that goes to the early 1800s with autographs and bills and mostly when the railroad came through in 82. I got a lot of stuff to relate to that. So that's the school, all the school system. I don't know if you guys are aware of the school system, how it was built here in Rutherglen and Bonfield, but it was quite a scandal. And one-room schoolhouses every mile and a half. And then the Rutherglen School was built in 1958, 2 rooms. They had to expand it down to the 3rd or 4th room. And then they closed her up on us. And so we lost our schools, so to speak. We're going to lose our churches too. We only got 1 church left, or 2 churches left, and the other one is very close to closing too. So we lose our churches, we lose our schools, we lose our heritage and our history. What's left here? That's what we got to think about, trying to protect what we had in the past. The number 2 here on my list is Bell Canada. Did you know your cell phones and all your little pads and that, they originated here out of Bonfield? It was Duncan McIntyre, and I got looking at this, and Duncan McIntyre died in 1899. How did he set up the Rutherglen Rural Telephone Company here with Bonfield and Rutherglen in 1918? So it turns out it was his son that took it over. And they formed, buying up all these little telephone companies, Bonfield, Rutherglen, Corbeil, and they formed Bell Canada. So we originated more or less out here, out of Bonfield. And that's something that people don't realize. You talk on yourself. Oh, this was home, once upon a time. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize The product Pablo for kids. Was born here in Bonfield. Actually over by where Donna lives on Howell Lake. Mr. Dr. Drake from Toronto used to come up and spend his summers up here, his summer residence. And he would bring his samples and his experiments and go around to the farmhouses and treat the little kids with the formulas and Pablo. We're gonna lose that because I know the story and I have some of the proof in that, but once I'm gone, who else is gonna know where Pablo was made? And right here in Bonfield. Dr. McLaren. Everybody saying, well, how is he related to all the McLarens? Well, he was a chiropractor out of Toronto, but he was born and raised here in Rutherglen, over where Dan Hone has his farm there right now. It was one of the first experimental farms in Ontario. And in 1940, and I have the newspaper clipping in, the premier and all his cabinet came up out of Toronto to open this farm up. And it was a pretty fancy farm. It had running water and everything where everybody else was still dipping the pail. And so there was a lot of money went into that farm and it was all through Dr. McLaren. Oh, there you go. Screaming Eagle just went on. Now for J.R. Booth, we have a chance. We have a gentleman here in the township who's willing to give us a log that's taken out of the lake here with the J.R. Booth stamp right on the end of the log. That would be very nice to have in our museum. This gentleman's also, thinking on leaving Bonfield, and when he leaves, I'm sure the log will leave with him. And I would like to see where we could somehow, and he's graciously told me that he would like to give it to us and have it presented at the museum. So I'm hoping that we can preserve it and have it for future people to visit and to see what J.R. Booth did here in Bonfield. There again, J.R. Booth headquarters is Bonfield. His offices and his houses are still standing here. And I don't know any other man that put a train on a barge and took it up to Wassy, up our lake. I've never heard tell that done before, but that's what he did with all this equipment. One other thing, I've talked with a veteran, and I'm very thankful and very proud of all he has put in your Remembrance Day together here. We have the Canada flag out there and I have the cemetery. But we don't have no wall or memorial with the list of names of all the farm boys that left the township of Bonfield here that didn't come back from the war or did come back and suffered and passed away later. This veteran is willing to work with our group as a historian and to place a monument out there at not his expense, but the government's expense, I guess. He says he can get finances to put this up. And he will be making a presentation with you later. And I would think it would be really a thriller to have a memorial here, whereas North Bay, Mattawa, everybody else has one, to represent our farm boys that left here. And I have a list of names of the soldiers, some of them that not on the list, but with time we can put them all together and have them put on this memorial if council sees to it. When they went around and they signed up a lot of kids, it was 18 and older, but there was a lot of kids that was 16, 17, lied about their age to go over to war to fight. But they also went around to the neighborhood here and asked the girls if they could help in preparing bandages and learning the trade of serving medicines to the wounded. And this week I've had a nice little gift given to me of I don't know what you call it, but it's what they use to give to the soldiers when they weren't able to drink and take their morphine and stuff like that. And it's like it's 80 years old. It's China, and it's a beautiful little thing. There again, I like to see that put into a museum where somebody else can enjoy it as much as I do. And that's a fair family heirloom. I'll leave the questions up to you guys. I think it's very important if we can get this off the ground, and it's to the benefit of the township that we put a building up there. It's going to be your building, whether it's now or later, and it would be an asset to the whole township and to the residents of Bonfield and Rutherglen.
Thank you, Elma.
Okay, thank you very much. And We will like to open it up to any questions that you may have.
I'll go to Jason.
Has
And
the
you
committee,
can say where you want it.
oh, it's for the committee in general, I guess. Has
Okay.
the committee considered any other option other than purchasing the piece of property? So I understand you need property if you're gonna go for grants and you need all of that, but there are other potentials other than purchasing
Yes,
and the ownership of the piece.
right, exactly. We have looked at and we have considered leasing also. If we can lease for, say, 99 years, we would also lease
Mhm.
the property,
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would only, I mean, obviously very hopeful that all of this could come to fruition. But if we were to sell that piece of property for $1, we've now lost ownership of it. Right? So if it unfortunately doesn't come to fruition for whatever roadblocks come in, well, we've sold the property as opposed to potentially looking at other options. If the township was able to allow a piece of property to be used, but not necessarily lose ownership of it, I think,
Mhm.
I'd like to explore those kinds of options for sure.
Yes, absolutely. We have discussed that.
Yes, and there's another consideration too, here too, going back about 20 years ago, the motions were passed. That was the first spike, going to be called the first spike park. And it's in writing in your files. We went through the files that everything was supposed to be established and put into the park there. And we felt that we would be disturbing the park and maybe future commitments with the council here. So that's why we were looking at more or less the wasteland and hopefully closer to the track too. When we get this old steam engine running, it's gonna be more handier that way.
Yes, as the pictures on the wall, the stations were like right at the track with the
Mhm.
platforms there, so it would just be so, as far as a visual, that would just be something that would be, extraordinary. But yes, we have, also talked about leasing, too.
Okay.
That was an option.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Donna's got one.
Donna, sorry.
Congratulations on analyzing, that's awesome. So you, Karen, you said you did some research. Like, I think we would benefit if you maybe put a report together on your findings. I think that might be helpful. I know, because when I read this, I did a little bit of research too, and I think Powassan had a museum. I'm not, and I think it's closed, right? Like, I'm not sure. I think it would be helpful if a report came about, I had like 10 minutes that I actually did. I think Nipissing has a museum as well.
Yeah.
So you're not looking to generate revenue from the museum though.
No.
So it's not going to be a
Employment
self-sustaining.
maybe, but not-
Employment, yes, and yes, employment, really. And also, we would like to, our thoughts are to bring the history and technology together with a possible attraction such as a portal room, which when you sit there, you can go back in history. That's an attraction. Right
And
there.
you talked about the first spike, that's the big,
Mhm.
right. So any thought about maybe starting with like the first spike and the wall? I think if we did a mural just so that we can get some traction. And we do already, I think our planner sits on your committee, comes to your committee meetings, correct?
No.
Oh, so that
But
was a
this is the
commitment.
problem.
No, we don't.
We've been weekly having meetings by ourselves.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so have you communicated dates
Well,
and
no.
times?
Pardon me, it's because we are, because we've just become nonprofit.
Okay, okay,
And so we didn't, there wasn't anything totally established.
okay. So,
enough
and I
to-
think that that's what council has committed is that
Mhm.
our planner will, and then they can, bring back any information to council.
Mhm.
So yeah, so maybe that's an idea too, because we did commit that.
Yes, okay, okay, and, but, what we really, are requesting is land, actually, and either leasing or purchasing, so that we can, start to acquire grants or at least start to look for, possibilities out there.
All the sponsorship through CP
Yeah.
Rail, we're going
Yeah.
after CP Rail.
CP
Being that
Rail.
this was their
Yeah.
birthday party, so
Yeah.
They should buy the candles.
And the cake.
That's right, yeah. And as far as the research goes, I've traveled a lot and it's just in my travels that I have seen and been able to actually enter different museums and that across Canada and through the States also. I haven't documented anything, but I could, absolutely, so it's just all pretty well on visual and on my reporters,
Well,
so.
we could all take a Sunday drive and head to South River. They've done one down there with their train station, which right now they're in a little bit of hardship because the Northlanders coming back on and they need the station back. So whether they re-rent the room back out to them or build another station beside it, that's gonna be up to the Northlanders. But also, if you really want to see something, is go to Miskamang and see their old station there. It has been turned into a museum. They have 2 staff there running that all summer.
And who pays for the staff?
The town of Temiskaming pays for because the town owns the building. Yes, so, we do not want to put any of the burden on the township. And that's why we're attempting at acquiring any grants, for the build and for the clearance and whatever we have to do on our own through this nonprofit committee, so that there will be no burden on the township or the taxpayers.
We also have access to a whole university full of
Yeah,
kids who need to do something.
yeah, as far as
And,
interns go.
and government
and,
programs that want
yes,
to do something.
yeah,
so.
yeah, so I know that you're probably definitely going to have to deliberate on this and that would be wonderful if you could get back to us at your leisure.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess my biggest question, I guess I think a business plan presented to the CAO would be before we go ahead and, give land away or sell it for $1. I mean, there should be some kind of a business plan so we know it's viable, right?
Okay,
That's kind of
Sure.
where my head's at. I mean,
that's. fair.
ultimately, it's, it's town land, right? So we gotta,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Respect that fact.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
This is the
yeah.
sort of conversation I want to
Mhm.
have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
And
yes, I will work on it.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
There you go. And generally, I think that we can provide you with a 5-year forecast on that. And that will, financials, of course, there is no real money right now, but we can provide that forecast, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Absolutely. we can do that.
Counselor Steve, do you have any comment?
No, I mean, we talked about this a little bit at a meeting that we had a little while ago at a training meeting, and like brick and mortar buildings for museums are kind of a tough gig, North America wide currently. But a lot of organizations have gone to setting up small displays at the library, a small display at the school, a small display maybe at the community center, at the, maybe here at the township hall, and kind of spreading it out a little bit where now you're not, held to a fixed expense of a building and hydro and insurance and, all the stuff that comes along with running a building. I think it's, valuable to try and preserve some of that stuff. Coming up with a building is a bit of maybe a tall task. I don't know if you guys have looked at some of those options as well.
We will. At this point, like at least I think we've done twice now, council, and just told you what we had in mind. And really have no idea how you guys might respond to that. So if you think we should proceed with the business plan, there was no sense doing it if you guys are opposed. And so we could come up with those things in the business plan. We could come up with the whys and wherefores, and yes, we could look into that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
options.
anybody would be opposed to it by any means, just looking at like a feasibility of it that, we already have existing buildings here and, maybe eventually we have a different doctor's office and, some of those things that we might be able to do kind of small displays in all the buildings that are already existing as well, and do sort of like a tour through.
But one
Might
thing
be.
that we did have a strong feeling for is an archive of the fact, if you look into the history of our area here, it goes back a long way. And that history offers us a lot of partners from First Nations, Métis, just go through the list. Veterans, and that's, I'm sure, true in many situations, but and I understand the whole prospect of doing all this and having it fall flat, right? I mean, that would be my first question. So yes, we will, if we know that you want to see these things and we'll look at them seriously, we'll make the effort to get them to you. Absolutely. Did have other ideas about other pieces of property too, and we'll talk about those as well. So
That's right. And thank you. And Steve, it's wonderful to have, your different kind of like floating exhibits and that. But then there is the question, and this is what we had discussed. The reason why we want it in one sacred building is because of the liability and the worthiness of the artifacts that are coming in. The fishes and all of the paperwork and all of the history that should be actually under one roof, and it has to be contained very special in a special way, in a special manner. So but
One
that's-
more,
that's a
Jason.
wonderful idea. Yeah. And that's why we wanted it under one roof.
Right.
Somewhere under one roof. Is there anything
Councillor
else?
Corbett.
Yeah, just, sorry, I think, timing is gonna be important on this. So if we're reviewing our timing on our side, if we're reviewing our municipal assets, looking at what we have, again, if we're looking to make sure that we're utilizing or figuring out what to do with buildings, and or if we're gonna look at potentially new buildings, new builds, any of that for municipal office, library, it might be actually the right time to talk about whether or not that sort of partnership, because you're right, I think it would be expensive. Bricks and mortar is one thing, but to put in an archive, I think is gonna be extraordinarily expensive. So perhaps that's there's some partnership pieces there that we could look at timing wise. And then even timing from your side of, I would like to see the business plan. I'd like you to work with our CIO, because ultimately we'd need a report coming forward. And it might be a timing thing. So it could be a notional commitment from council that if you get down to step 9 in your plan or whatever it is, and all of these things come to fruition, it's not going to stop you from doing 1 through 9, as long as you have a notional approval or whatever it is from council, that yes, like it is absolutely moving ahead. You've got the money in the bank, you've got the whatever you need. That's probably the timing that you're gonna
that's what I was hoping for.
need from council. It's not land first. It's gonna be, land where in that equation, get a notional approval from council. But yeah, steps 1 through 9 are probably your heavy lifting. I think if you do all of that, 1 through whatever, I throw number 9, but that'll be your heavy lifting. I think the land, if you can get all that off the ground, I think the land's probably not your hardest piece, to be honest.
Okay,
Okay,
that's perfect. Like,
and just as far as the 5-year forecast, I know that all the municipalities do not always have the same kind of template. Would you have a template for me to acquire?
I can share something that we do on a 5-year forecast and
Yes.
see if it will work.
Yes, okay, that'll be
It's not
great,
geared
because
straight to that, but.
yeah,
I can work.
because I would like to have something that's geared for this township, so.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say, I look after a museum out in Nipissing, and it's a tough go. I mean, it's right on highway, and it's hard to get people off the highway to come into it. I mean, the building's in tough shape, we're almost at the point where we might lose ours because the building is,
you're in the The town of Nipissing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, just the building's declining and there's no funding out there to fix it and
Right.
the town, it's hard for the township, the council to say, here, we're gonna put 200,000 towards this. Well, Public Works needs a building or this place needs this,
I
or,
understand.
I mean, and not to take away
No.
from what you guys are doing, it's great. It's just, it's,
It's a
That's
tall
the
task.
Yeah,
reality.
yeah.
right.
We
Yeah.
understand.
Our money's
the
being pulled
reality,
everywhere.
You know, I mean, and myself being in business for
Right.
a very long time. I don't want to age myself. I understand the reality of building and paying and
Maintenance.
maintenance, everything that comes with it and that. So, and yes, we understood this right at the beginning. And we just would like to see all of our artifacts and that under one building. And if we can do it, we will do it.
Mhm.
You know, with your help.
It'd be great to
With
have,
your help.
for sure.
So we really
Okay,
appreciate.
I'm appreciated, appreciate that you came forward to the township, to council, to let us know what your dreams are and what you, they always say, if you build it, they will come. And I'm sure that if there's something out in that area, I know there's lots of questions with respect to the property that you're questioning. And, there'd have to be searches done and what are the restrictions with respect to the subdivision agreement and that sort of thing. I know that there are questions, but the most important thing to me is that you're here tonight and you're bringing your ideas forward. And it's more than what we have had the last couple of years. No one is offering to do anything like that. And I have to say, there are other options if you don't purchase it, such as leasing the property, or there's 40 acres of park out there that there is virtually nothing. There's a playground playground equipment that was put there 18 years ago, and there's been nothing there since. There was 3 planters last year, and somebody stole all the planters. So all there was 3 lumps of weeds there. So there's nothing out in that park. And the big thing is right now, there's a subdivision going forward. And I think there's recently, when I looked, I think there's 3 or 4 new homes in there. So there's going to be more people, more children out there. So looking at, you put a museum up, and possibly if you could get funding and put a park in there, put more park benches or put some equipment for the children, because they count too. And there's quite a big, and I'm very proud of the park we have here and what the children have, but also something like that could trigger more activity, more volunteers, and you've started it. People are thinking now, and probably on our live stream here, people are going to think that maybe we should go and get involved and see how we can help. And that you've given council a lot to think about right now. Is there something available? When we went to build the fire hall out in Rutherglen, the piece of property that you're talking about now, the council of the day was offering that for a fire hall. But with the fire department, they didn't like the fact that the tracks were on both sides of it. And so that didn't happen, but it happened that one of the taxpayers came forward and said, sever a piece of property off my land and you can have the property for the farm or for the fire hall. So things can happen, and you have brought it forward, and I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And with that, you can also, you're talking about the park, so you can give us that option too. If you wish to lease a certain part of the park for us, if you think that's more beneficial. We had looked at that too, or this land here, but in the meantime, we will work on the 5-year forecast, but we would also like the assurity of the council that we're working for something. if
Well,
possible. Okay,
I
thank you.
feel I got that answer. So
Thank you.
Okay,
with my
thank
9
you very
points.
much.
Yeah.
There might be A, B, C, and D in each point. Yeah.
I'm sure our new planner, when you let him know that you have meetings, when you have any meetings, he's very interested in heritage as well. And he does have information on maybe somewhere you may get funds or may give you information. I spoke to him the other day and I
That's
found
great.
it very
That's
interesting.
wonderful. Yeah.
And so be sure to include our planner and then he will bring information back to council, back to the staff and maybe things can move forward, but don't quit. Keep going.
So then my last question would be, what kind of timeline? I'm always into the timelines. What kind of timeline do you want the 5-year forecast? Are you looking at in
Or
the
the
next
business.
month?
I think you get to drive the train on this one.
Pardon me?
You get to drive the train on this one. The timing is really gonna be up to you. I mean,
Yes.
our part at this point
It
isn't
can be-
really that big. It's-
Yes, it can be, we can do it within a month.
I think
Oh my
it's
goodness.
best you talk to the CAO and, kind of see which Nikki's looking for and,
Yeah,
and.
she'll be giving us a template and to work with. Thank you so
I'll call you
much.
guys. and we can
Okay.
Arrange something.
Perfect, thank you. Okay,
Oh,
thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
What did I do with my agenda? Okay, next we have staff reports. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Is the fire chief on?
Good night.
I don't think so.
Okay. The fire chief was going to attend, but.
Oh, sorry.
Break may have turned up, so we can move forward with report.
You want the fire chief first? Yeah,
No, Dave was gonna join.
oh, Dave
sorry,
is gonna be
Fire
here.
chief
Oh,
was gonna join by Zoom.
Uh,
So I was just gonna let him go if he was on,
Okay.
but we can carry on per the agenda. He's not on.
No, he's not on.
Okay. And he's working too. Don't worry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yep.
And Dave is here?
No, he's not. We're
Oh.
gonna move on with the agenda with item 6.
So I can go ahead with the staff report.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, the report from the CAO and IT management RFP.
Yes. Okay, so you do have the report. We have 2 providers currently, and this was brought to a corporate services committee meeting. Previously with a review on all of our expenses and how we're always looking for efficiencies and how to streamline some of our services. So at that meeting, we were talking about how we are provided with our IT systems currently. And with the list on that, from that meeting, we did decide that we would go to an RFP to see if we could find if there's economies in scales and having one provider. So we did issue that. We promoted it on Bid and Go as well as our website. So we did get quite a few responses, which were fantastic. A lot of companies were interested in providing our services, and you have a breakdown of what those services along with the fees, and those are in the package on our website. So if anyone wanted to see it. So the RFP explained that the proposals would not be based solely on the lowest cost, but they're evaluated on experience and qualifications, the budget, project design and concept references, and the support services. So the CAO and the deputy clerk treasurer reviewed each proposal independently, and we scored them based on each of the criteria. And we averaged out that scoring. So the top 3 are listed there. And then from there, we went into have clarification and conversations with them. So the North Bay computers are the ones that we are recommending. They are currently our email. They help us with Microsoft 365 and they manage our email. They have previously hosted our website. So they're very familiar with all the services that we have offered here in Bonfield. But by going with North Bay Computers, The new services will provide the increased security for all of our systems. It's a better integration for Public Works and the fire departments. Right now, those systems are sitting on standalone computers in those buildings, and we want to integrate all of our files into one so that we have that master list. And we'll be able to do that with the requirements from the proposals. And of course, we're addressing the recommendations in the EDICOR and the smart computer reports for the improvements to the township information technology setup. So staff are recommending that we move forward with the North Bay computers at a cost of $3,028 plus the HST. And then that they will require a minimum of 8 weeks to onboard our systems. One of the clarifying pieces in here was there was in the quotes, there were differences between giving us Microsoft 365 Business Standard and Microsoft Business Premium. And because we're going to increase our securities with firewalls and spam and antivirus, we can stay with the 365 standard because we will have sufficient security. We have clarified that as well, and that's why that's the lowest number. Any questions?
Councillor Corbett.
Does this cost include a virtual server as opposed to a?
So we hope to go to the virtual server in 2025. So this cost includes for now, the maintenance of the physical servers.
Okay.
Out of my wheelhouse.
Vast difference in quotes for sure.
Yes, and when you refer to the standard and the premium, and with respect to the rest of the quotes, are they all standard?
Some were standard and some were premium.
Okay,
It depended on the firewall and the anti-spam that they were including with that. So if that wasn't sufficient, then the premium would have provided those security measures that we needed.
because there's quite a difference then between the standard and the premium, right?
Yes.
I do like that North Bay Computers is local. I imagine some of these other bids are not local.
I think only 2 were local.
Yeah. So I do like
But
that
within an
aspect.
hour. Yes.
Right.
And by M365, that's an Office like
Yes.
365? Okay. Like I've never seen the M365. Okay. I'm fine.
So when we do that, when we enter into this agreement, and the agreement, we pay the fees monthly, these are monthly fees for the services, right?
Yes.
And how long is the agreement for? How long are we committed or they're committed?
I believe a minimum of 3 years.
2 years?
3.
3,
We can make that whatever council decides,
okay.
whatever you want. If you have a preference, we can do 1 year as a trial and then do with an extension of 3 years after that, once we know that the 1 year that everything's working fine. We will be investing in the change in the infrastructure that we have. So we want to make sure that there's at least return on value on that investment as well.
I guess, is there an exit clause?
Yeah.
Always.
So, I mean, do we really need to, whatever whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean, as long as we have an exit clause, I mean,
So
The
then,
deputy clerk might be able to help, but it might be 90 days. We did read 8 and they were all over the place.
yeah,
Yeah.
so then when we say we budgeted, it's in our budget. It's in our budget for the year, right? For so much per month per year.
Yes.
It's not a big lump sum that we're putting out for this. Only on a monthly basis, yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Got any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Really?
Okay.
We must have one. Do we have a motion? Just
Yes, at the bottom of the first page.
right here.
Yep.
Moved by Councillor Corbett, second by Councillor McGinnis. That council for the Township of Bonfield receives a report from the CAO, clerk treasurer, and further that the staff recommend awarding RFP MUN 01-2024, IT management contract to North Bay Computer Services. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the next report from our CAO, website management RFP.
So the township conducted a community satisfaction survey in 2023. We've gone through some of those, but residents, basically that was on obtaining feedback with a lens on improvement for communications, for certain questions. So the survey had a total of 162 responses that indicated 63% of the community satisfied with communications, leaving 37% seeking improvement. 58% use the municipal website frequently when connecting with the municipality. So it is a significant medium for municipal communications. As the intent is to provide an all-inclusive central location where residents can access the information they need at any time. While non-electronic communication is the preferred method of communication, and the survey indicated the municipality can improve those mediums, 38% of the community look first to the website for the information. The municipalities also heard that the current website is not user-friendly and that it's hard to find information. Many simply just use the search function, and it still takes a few tries at that to find the information. So our current website is cumbersome for staff to update as well. There are templates that cannot be changed. So there's little flexibility in adding new content. It's very cookie cutter. We have asked for in addition to have the newsletter subscription add on, because that was one of the things that we heard through community engagement is that, if they could subscribe to a newsletter, that would be great. And as well, we wanted to be able to provide better information about where taxes are spent through a tax calculator. Those add-ons are each $3,000. So it's expensive when we're piecemealing it and not doing a complete website overhaul. Other instances of the current one, there's restrictions on putting capitals on the titles and, to have that fixed, that was a formatting thing, but to have that fixed, there was a fee for the municipality. So currently our recent costs for updates in 2024, minimal, under $400, 2024 and 2023. 2022, there was a little bit more money spent on the website for at almost $1,500, and then the annual hosting fees are $534,000. So I can kind of give you a benchmark of what our current costs are, and they're not unreasonable. However, our website does need an update to add features that will allow the municipality to communicate better with the community, and we're also looking for a unique website design. So we did go to RFP for the website. Again, we did advertise that on Bidingo and on our municipal website. The RFP was issued with the due date of November 12th. We received 6 responses for that as well. Obviously, you can see a vast difference in those quotes, anywhere from like $7,900 to $265,000. And I really do think that when you drill down going through them, some of them were like, we're going to completely rebuild your website, and they were going to do the content and enter every single page. So, that's the 265. They're doing the bulk, they're doing all of the work. There's no work on us. But the RFP did explain again that the proposals are not based solely on the lowest cost, but we would evaluate them on the same criteria. So experience, budget, the program design and concepts, references, and the support services. So the budget for the project was $15,000. That's what we budgeted in 2024 to redesign the website. And with that said, each proposal was reviewed for completeness to confirm that the total pricing was reflective of their proposals. The higher submissions included cost, as I explained. We did do the scoring. This was a CAO, the deputy clerk treasurer, and the office clerk as well, as she is the one who typically does maintain the website. The top 2 proposals were from GHD Digital and VS Accounting. And then we did break down the highlights from both of them for you to see. So both of these tenders are within our budget, and they were complete applications. So qualifications and experience are highlighted, program design and concepts, the timeline. So there's the information is there for you. So based on the analysis, staff are recommending that we award the contract to GHD Digital. This will require 15 work weeks to onboard our new site, which depends on municipal staff content timelines as well. So that's us making the work. We've already divvied up between the departments, and you'll go find the information you need to put on the website, and let's start building that now. And staff are attending training actually tomorrow to help learn how to write that content. So although GHD Digital is not the lowest overall cost, the request for proposal explained that the submissions would be rated on set criteria. In reviewing the references and based on past municipal experience, along with the flexibility of the GovStock themes and modules that are included with GHD Digital and the online learning center, staff deem the end product will achieve the goals of providing the community with full user-friendly website that will improve our communications. Any questions?
Any question? Moved by Councillor McGinnis, second by Councillor Featherstone, that the council for the township of Bonfield receives a report from the CAO clerk treasurer, and further that staff recommend awarding RFP MUN 022024 website management contract to GHD Digital. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have report from CAO, External Audit Services RFP.
Again, the municipal act states that every municipality shall appoint an auditor and review that appointment every 5 years. The township's current auditor is BDO in North Bay. The contract did expire in 2020 for the year end of 2022, and we extended it for the year end of 2023. And then council requested staff to go to tender for the year ending 2024, so for this year. So we did issue the RP, and again, it was on the platform Bidding Go. We did receive 5 submissions back from the top accounting firms. So it's important to realize that the new asset retirement obligations has not been completed for Bonfield. That's in our financial statements. And in 2027, the new PSAP 1202 requirements are also coming forward that are drastically going to change how a financial statement looks. But they're not reflected in these amounts. So there will be additional fees for finishing the ARO, and then 2027 for when we have to revamp, because we don't know the specifics about all of the 2027 PSAP yet. And then of the 2 quotes that were in, BDO and Grant Thornton did have administration fees in addition to their pricing, and that is not calculated in the 5-year cost as well either. So again, the RP explains that we would be, it would be based on a set of criteria. It was experience, budget, understanding of a municipal audit process, and then references and quality of the proposals. You can see the scoring below. And the proposals were reviewed by the CAO and the deputy clerk treasurer. So all the submissions are from qualified and experienced auditing firms that are more than capable of meeting the needs of Bonfield's auditing needs, including the completion of the financial information return. Each requires approximately the same requirements of township staff, and all it can be in a hybrid of on-site and online audits. Online platforms are the new normal for auditing. And then in reviewing the submissions, staff focused on township requirements, timelines, and the ability to complete the FIR by due dates and 5-year overall costs. So we are recommending that the contract be awarded to Baker Tilly.
Any questions? Councillor McGinnis?
We set a timeline when the audit has to be back, so we're not, waiting so long into the season for it.
So the RFP stated that we wanted the audit done by April. Baker Tilly can meet that. All of them said that they would meet them. Some were into March, so you would score higher if you were March versus April, but it did state that it had to be done by the end of April, and our FIR had to be submitted by the end of May. So we have to submit the financial information return. The official due date is May 31st of each year. And then if it's not in by September 30th of each year, then the province sends a letter to say that you're, yeah, exactly. There are many municipalities that do not have their FIR in. It's just auditing firms have become extremely busy. And so some are just getting their financial statements.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking because I'd like to see like us improve
Yes.
on our auditing, like, and that helps set our budget and it just,
It's a priority.
yeah, okay.
All good? Moved by Donna Clark, second by Councillor McGinnis. The council for the township of Bonfield receives a report from the CAO clerk treasurer, and further that staff recommended awarding RFP MUN 03-2024 external audit services contract to Baker Tilly. All in favor? Carry. Okay, thank you. Next, we have the adoption of committee minutes and motions. Corporate services, we have not had a meeting, but the meeting's next Thursday.
Yeah.
27, is that
28
28.
28?
at 7 p.m.
Emergency services, there is a motion moved by Councillor Featherstone, second by Councillor Corbett. Whereas the Emergency Services Committee recommended to council to apply to the Emergency Management Preparedness Funding for upgrades to the township's emergency communication systems for the fire department, public works, and the emergency operating center, up to a maximum of $50,000. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Planning Advisory Committee. There are no motions, right?
Nope, there's no motions. I can provide an update if you'd like to.
Do you have
Sorry.
something to say?
There's two more motions for emergency management.
Oh.
The next two are as well.
Oh, okay, sorry. Moved by Councillor McGinnis, second by Donna Clark. Whereas the Emergency Services Committee recommended to council to initiate a pilot program to record emergency response information into the GIS system to be reevaluated after 12 months. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Corbett, second by Councillor McGinnis. Whereas the Emergency Services Committee recommended to council to initiate a pilot program to record emergency response information into the GIS system to be reevaluated after 12 months. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the Recreation Committee. Do you have any comments there?
No, we haven't seen each other since the Halloween parade. So I think we had a good amount of people out and celebrating and coming out and checking things out. We had a number of floats and lots of people participating and people put out a great effort for the event. And our next event is the soup and chili contest.
Okay, anybody else, any comment on the big parade?
I mean, I'll just echo that. I think the parade was a great success. I think it actually, great spirit, great municipal spirit from those that attended, but also those that put in floats. Gosh, the efforts that the people on the floats put in were remarkable and I think should be commended. So I appreciate all of those efforts. I think Bonfield will be known for a Halloween parade in the coming years, I think. So.
Thank you. I'm going to make a suggestion to the Recreation Committee. When the new year comes, I'm wondering if the Recreation Committee could host an evening for the other clubs other organizations and maybe talk about your plan for the year for your events. Do you think that would make it better that the events are not overlapping? I think if the township initiated it, then the others would come and probably have a schedule that then, because I did receive complaints that we're overlapping other fundraising. So I think if we take the initiative to have to host a meeting and the people could come and say this weekend, I want to have this, or we want to have that. Like, I think it could work with us doing it.
Yeah, for sure. We're obviously open to that. We've, as more organizations start to get into that community spirit and run more events, there's only so many weekends in a year. So I think what you're referring to is the Soup and Chili weekend.
Yeah.
We haven't
Mhm.
changed our date.
Yeah,
So it was the
it's-
same date every year. We've been talking at our committee level to come up with our calendar of events and just keep them the same so that every other organization is aware. These are the 8 or 9 or whatever it is, 10 events that we run, and it's always these days, and you can either kind of join or look for alternate dates or whatever, just so that our calendar is kind of wholesome year after year. And we haven't done a great job at that so far, but that's what we wanted to do, was kind of come up with our,
I just,
with our
it's
calendar.
just a suggestion. I thought if you could discuss it and maybe host the evening and bring the other clubs in and work out a schedule so that everybody knows what's happening. You can't organize it 100%, but you could say this is, because we're not really the fundraisers, right? It's the other organizations are trying to raise funds for their clubs. So if just an idea that might help, will help us as well. Next, we have the Police Services Board meeting, and we have the pamphlets that were given to us, and it was to talk about to encourage the people not to donate money to the people standing on the corners at the lights and that sort of thing. I have to admit that I'm probably one of the bad ones, because I'd see somebody there and I'd feel that I have time to give them $2 or $5. And I did admit that I was a bad one for that, and what they're encouraging you as well.
No, I got my pamphlet from an OPP officer standing on the median. Yeah, he was standing on the median, and notifying us not to,
Not to do that.
Yeah, not to do that.
Me as well.
Yeah.
And I brought it up to him that I think you're just as much a distraction, if not more, than somebody asking for money. And he didn't like that comment. He quickly walked away from the shop.
$2?
Nobody, he handed me a flyer, and it was like a, take this flyer.
Yeah.
Well, they said they have more pamphlets if we wanted them, say, if we sent them to the schools. It's not the children that's doing it for sure, but they would take it home to their parents. So that's there. If we wish to have more, we can get more to hand out. But it's a good lesson to all of us, because especially me, because I was bad for that before, and I promise not to do it anymore. So next we have moved by Donna, second by Dan. The Council for the Township of Bonneville supports the OPP Safe Street campaign, and that the pamphlets be obtained and be included in the welcome package and shared in the municipal Facebook page and website. All in favor? Carried. So,
Your worship, did you want me to report on the planning advisory committee meeting?
sure, did I skip you?
No, that's okay.
I interrupted, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Just a brief update, as council will recall, you asked the planning advisory committee to take a first crack at reviewing the housekeeping bylaw when it comes to a few different items. So we have had our first meeting to discuss hunt camps within the municipalities, additional dwellings and shipping containers. And we had a very fulsome conversation. We set a general path for staff to go and start some of that heavy lifting. They're going to come back with a draft proposal to a bylaw. If the committee is satisfied with that, then we will recommend that it goes to council with a recommendation. And at that point, council can deliberate and either accept it, reject it, send it back to the committee. You know, council can make their decisions, but I thought it was a pretty fulsome meeting with the planning advisory committee. So I thought it was a good meeting.
Yes, it was a very
Yeah.
good meeting.
Yep.
I
So,
think we've got fire.
and
Fire has a presentation as well.
Gonna forget you guys somehow. You're going to give it, how did I forget fire?
I don't
It's
think,
the
I don't
first
think,
Yeah,
one.
it was just
It
under
was
the
the first
EMS.
one.
or
You're not
sorry,
on my list.
The emergency,
Yeah, it's the first one. It was the first one. Second after corporate.
for the committee.
emergency services.
Oh, under the emergency services, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay,
Just a report to council. You guys all have the report. I'll just quickly go through it. We responded to since our last meeting, we responded to 4 calls for service, which is down 2 calls from last year. Depending on what the calls, might be a good thing, might just be coincidence. So that brings us up to 56 calls for service, year to date. Our regular training is going ahead as per usual. Training pushing forward. Fire prevention, we spent most of October out in the community in the hamlet of Bonfield doing door-to-door smoke alarm and CO inspections, as well as community awareness. We visited 55 homes within the hamlet of Bonfield with a 90% compliance rate. Communications, our fire chief was at the East Ferris Remembrance Day ceremony. Fire chief and deputy chief attended Calendar as well, and Bonfield, as well as in Bonfield, we had a few of our other members show up for support that day. Our standard operating procedures and policies are currently being reviewed. Community involvement, we were part of the Halloween parade, which was a big success, as well as our haunted firehouse on Halloween was received very well within the community.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we don't have a motion, I read them.
You read them
before, right?
already.
We already passed it already.
We knew it would be that good.
Okay, perfect.
And I would like to say thank you very much for the fire chief, acting fire chief and deputy chief for attending the Remembrance Day Parade. It certainly, you certainly represented Bonfield very well, Bonfield Fire Department. I see Dave made connection with the other fire departments and had big shots, so which was a good thing. And as well, I'd like to thank the staff for the Remembrance Day Parade that was put, or the Remembrance Day celebration we had on Sunday. And thank Councillor Corbett for emceeing the ceremony, and all of the people that comes in. I'm so impressed with Steve LaRock, who's a member of our municipality, and come Monday at the end of the calendar celebrate or Remembrance Day ceremony, I think his voice was getting very hoarse. I don't think he could yell anymore, but he certainly does a wonderful job for our whole the 3 townships, and I'm sure he works with the Legion all the time as well. So just to say thank you to Steve LaRock as well. So next we have Don. Next we have a request from the, good night. We have a request from the Bonfield and District Lions Club. Is any comments on that? You're good with it?
Yep.
Moved by Councillor McGinnis, second by Councillor Featherstone. Whereas the Bonfield and District Lions Club has submitted a donation request application in support of their Christmas events, be it hereby resolved that council approves the donation of, are we given what was requested, the $200?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. Are we at our budget for? do you
Is
think-
it good? The $200?
200 within the budget.
All in favor? Carried. Next we have, the Ogre Conference, March 30th, April 2nd. And, I did see the agenda and I think it's a good agenda for anyone that wishes to attend. And at this point, who is wanting to go to the Ogre Conference? Nobody? No one.
I think from a lot of the plenary sessions and the breakouts are good, but they don't necessarily apply to
Well, I
us.
thought there was some applied, but could be wrong. No one wants to go then.
Well, the public works manager and I were kind of talking about going for 1 day, but I mean, the cost is so high for 1 day that it's not.
Yeah,
worth
the
it.
registration.
Yeah, it's not worth it for 1 day.
Okay, so I'm just doing nothing, right? Okay, next we have the local conference. And then there was the health unit report. That's just a report. And then we have the dissolution of the Bonfield Police Services Board. The Police Services Board, only for Bonfield, will be dissolved. And we're in the process of having the Nosman Police Services Board with the 3 municipalities, Chisholm, East Ferris, and Bonfield. So I'll read this motion. Moved by Councillor McGinnis, second by Councillor Corbett. Whereas the Police Services Act was repealed on April 1st, 2024, and whereas any police services board formed under this act no longer has any authority or power, and whereas the Community Safety Policing Act has taken legislative responsibility to form new OPP detachment boards, therefore the Council for the Township of Bonfield confirms the dissolution of the Police Services Board retroactive to April 1st, 2024. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have correspondence, and we have the the Phenom hosting application. Anybody interested?
I think we have a bylaw 9B.
Oh, yes. Where is it here? Okay, next we have the bylaw 2024-63, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Township of Chisholm for bylaw enforcement peace officer. Maybe that's what's under here.
Just give us, just give me a second. I'll see if we can find, there was a motion to go with it.
You can just handwrite it on the one.
Do you have? You already wrote on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in the motion stuff.
Nikki's crafting one up.
Pull the disappearing act on it.
Won't happen with your new Office 365. Or M365, whatever.
Could I go ahead with the correspondence while she's doing this?
Yes.
Okay. Correspondence, it's the Phenom hosting. We did host Phenom a long time ago, but it's quite a job. Good Roads, establishment of the Rural Road Safety Program. Are we in support of that?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Peterborough, the same thing, the rural safety. And then the next one is the town of Aurora redistribution of land transfer tax and GST. All in favor of that? And that's it. The council receives the correspondence moved by Donna Clark, second by Councillor Featherstone. The council receives the correspondence circulated with the agenda of November 19th, 2024. All in favor? Carried.
Just get somebody to move and,
Can you second?
You can.
If you get it.
That's what you want.
Page 2. I would do more heavy lifting on the side.
It's about time to do
Yeah.
something over there.
Moved by Councillor McGinnis, second by Councillor Featherstone, that bylaw number 2024-63 to enter into an agreement with the Township of Chisholm for bylaw services be read a first, second, third time and hereby be considered adopted this 19th day of November 2024. All in favor? Carried. Yeah, that was this question period. Next, we have a closed session.
okay, I
Okay.
will end the recording.